flyover. So there are no attendees yet. It is broadcast.
Needs to be bigger.
Hey, Jen, do we have other people on now?
There
Can
is
they
one
just
attendee. I see
pardon me?
12. There's, or no, I'm sorry, 3. Yeah, there are some attendees now.
And so they can watch us and hear us.
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening. Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Kate.
I did one of these 2 hours ago. I have no idea what the difference is right now.
Do you have a little icon down to your left?
Yeah, I'm playing
video?
with this. I'm playing with the settings. It won't let me just start the video. So
Check you. I'll try it. I don't think so though. No, I don't think so.
Oh. Which one is that, Steve?
You're on mute, Steve.
We can't hear.
That's Doris.
I can start asking. Oh, there we go. No.
oh, there we go. For some reason it works now. I have no idea why.
It's because I held Doris up.
That's right. It was her.
Gail's
camera.
audio is also off.
Good. Well, it is 6:30. We have everybody. And so we can call this meeting to order. And if you want to speak, just like raise your hand or something. I've done a few of these meetings where I've run the meeting for Metro mayors with 30 people on. So I think we can manage tonight. I'm glad to see everybody and that everybody's safe and healthy looking and probably well fed and all those good things. Let's start out by looking at the regular agenda. Is there anything on there that anyone needs something to be clarified?
Okay.
Good.
No?
No.
If not, then we're going to go to the meeting issues and updates. And I'm just going to go around. The person who's next to me is Bud. So Bud, if you want to start with that, feel free.
Well, the library board did meet on Zoom last Wednesday, had a regular meeting other than just like this. Nothing really big that had to be dealt with right away. They did talk about their budget and it was approved. They're year-to-date $15,000 under budget, which is good. And they're taking a look at a 6-month moratorium on this thing they're considering about eliminating fines for late returns. Apparently all the other libraries in the area have done away with fines. And this board wants to make a decision as to whether that's the right thing to do or not. So they're holding off on that to get through this current crisis. That was about it.
Great. Thank you. Emerson, you're next.
I have nothing, Jerry.
Okay. Joanne, you're next. And then Pam Bliss.
Hi. Let's see. The ARB did not have a meeting on the 16th, but they've been working virtually and they submitted comments on some preliminary reviews, and then staff approved 2 projects without the ARB. The Plan Commission is canceled for May. They have 1 application for a CUP for a cellular antenna, and that's going to be postponed to June. And that's it.
Okay. And Joanne, I'm going to go back to you because I know you have a few things to say. David Franklin?
I just want to say it's wonderful to see you all. And I think this is awesome that we're doing this via Zoom. And I hope that this is just the beginning of us using technology in order to interact and to connect with our citizens.
Is that it?
That is it.
Okay. Mr. Wiley, or do you want to wait?
Or
Hmm?
wait for what?
Do you want to, I don't know, do you have
No, I
something
don't
you
need
want
to. I don't really have anything in it. They're supposed to start the tennis courts tomorrow. It's supposed to rain a lot, but we're actually breaking ground on that project. So it should be done, scheduled to be done Seems like July 20th or something like that, in time for practices to start, I guess. But
Okay,
that's all. I know you're going to come back to stuff. So.
yeah, we'll come back to stuff. Neil, do you have anything? You're muted.
No, ma'am.
Okay. And Laura, you're muted. Unmute yourself. Good.
You know, there are people in my house, so when I'm not talking, I think I'll probably stay muted just to be careful. I do want to tip my hat to Emerson. Your background game is very good.
Yeah.
In terms of city business, the HPC did not meet, but 2 demolitions were approved administratively for one on Oak Street and one on Denver Place. And I believe Mara said that they'll probably do a virtual meeting next month as well, or they just if they don't have very much work on administrative approvals. Obviously, Parks and Rec is one of those that didn't have real pressing business and didn't meet either. On a related note, I did send you all a idea that I had about the 4th of July. I do think, even though we're not scheduled to talk about it tonight, we don't have to have that conversation tonight. If we're going to come up with a plan B, we need to start thinking about that rather than waiting until we have to make a cancellation decision to do that. So the idea was kind of a reverse parade, but I am not wedded to that idea. If somebody's got better ideas, and staff may have better ideas as well, because they're closer to the planning of that activity. But I'd just like for us to at least think about what we're going to do as an alternative.
I think that'll, after we go around once, I think that's a topic under meeting issues and updates that we need to bring up and talk about while we're all here. So we will do that. And I have a couple of things. I've spent a bit of time working on this town hall on Thursday evening. And I want to update you because I spoke with Mac Bradley and the folks who are running this afternoon. As of today, we have close to 250 people registered, which is wonderful.
Yes.
Why? Great number of people. I have seen their draft of their presentation, and I think you all will be extremely pleased. I'm going to do a welcome, and then they're taking over, and it looks really, really good. They have, because this is such a challenge, and boy, are they nervous about it. It's a challenge to have maybe what we'll end up with is 300 people in a town hall meeting that's virtual. And so they have some things that they're going to do. They're going to do an opportunity for people to ask questions throughout the entire presentation, so that when they get to the question and answer period, they will have questions that have been submitted virtually. And they have a way of, they're going to look for the ones that are most frequently asked to reply during the town hall meeting. But they know that there will be others, and they are going to make sure that there's a list of all of the questions and that all of them are answered, probably not until next week. That depends on how many they get. On Friday, they will put up an access to the meeting and the video, and everyone will be able to go to their website and pick all of that up. Next week, they'll put together their process for May. The cards that we sent out really worked because it really increased the number of people who signed up, and I hear from people who've said they've gotten the card. So I wanted to pass that on to you, because I think that Thursday's town hall meeting is going to be really exciting, and it gives everybody an opportunity to put their input in. They're going to be doing surveys throughout for priorities and concerns, so they'll be doing a lot of data gathering. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that we've had a lot of mayors meetings, Metro Mayors, Muni League, Missouri Mayors United, and everybody is sharing information about operations and their concerns. And there are two things that we've been doing. We're working together to try to get Wayfair passed so that we can collect that online sales tax. The other thing that is happening is that all of the money that seems to be distributed is going to county government, going to state government, and yet here we are, the municipalities who have the firefighters, the ambulances, the police, and we've been sort of eliminated out of that money that's being given away. And the county ended up with $175 million. So we now we've had one meeting scheduled with Sam Page, and we will have more meetings with Sam Page. The issue is trying to get them to understand how badly the municipalities are influenced by what's going on. I will also tell you that one of the things that we think is an important piece is that those of us who have our own fire departments need to fund those fire departments primarily out of sales tax. If you are in a fire protection district, you're funded through property tax. And so you're not affected like those of us are who are influenced by the sales tax. And so we're trying to do something to do that. So I just wanted to let you know that there are a lot of concerns out there, and we seem to be sharing them and going forward.
Mayor,
So, yes.
how did the first meeting with County Executive Sam Page go?
It went pretty well. It went pretty well. There were a lot of questions that were asked primarily by the Lafayette mayors, a lot of the mayors in West County, but it went pretty well. And because there were a couple of comments made about the mayors and the cities being left out, he has scheduled another meeting. I think it's next Monday. I don't know. I have to keep a list of all these Zoom things that are going on. So.
Good, glad to hear.
Okay. So we have two other updates I think that we want to talk about before we get to the PR discussion. One of them is that we want Joanne to kind of help us understand what's going on financially through all this mess and trying to do a budget. So Joanne, are you ready to say something here?
Sure. I'm ready.
Go.
So it looks like right now with the budget projections that I've done, it looks like for the current year, we'll be upside down about $500,000. So a little over $500,000. And that includes, of course, the sales tax reductions, of course, because we have almost no businesses open, and because we're part of a pool that has almost no businesses open. That's how this whole Wayfair thing that you mentioned is so important if we could get it passed. And then for fiscal year 2021, I feel like we'll be upside down about $1 million. Again, we did a number of things. We talked to the department directors. They cut their budget tremendously. We had a few unfilled positions that we chose not to fill at this point. So that, removes the cost factor right there, reduces the budget a bit. We only had a small increase for health insurance for the upcoming year of 2%. So that was really nice. Us being a part of the whole group that we're a part of with Slate and that we're self-insured has just helped us tremendously over the years. And then of course, the other part is with the rec center closed, we have so much of that revenue that we used to get from all of those programs that we're not getting. So we've had to reduce the revenues from that. With business licenses, we pushed back the deadline for that to June 15th so that we give them a little bit of breathing space or a little bit of time. We still believe that we'll get a good amount this year, but in the next year, because in 2021 will be based on the revenue from 2020. So we believe that we'll have less in business license revenue. We don't know about permits yet, but we have the very large one with Webster Grove School District, which is in the current fiscal year in 2020. So we'll see the revenues there fall off also. We don't think there will be an issue with property tax because we're a very stable community property tax wise. I'm trying to think about the other ones, but those are the main ones that I can think of right now, and those are the main ones that I'm looking at.
Thank you.
Joanne, can I ask 2 questions?
Yes.
Sure.
The first I was going to ask in regards to the $1 million potential, not deficit, but I guess reduction in budget for 2021, does that include ensuring that everyone continues to stay employed full-time and their salaries are paid?
Yes, it does. And it actually includes a pay increase.
Wonderful.
Because we specifically with the police department, we're trying to get them up to where they should be because they're a bit below where they should be as far as where we would like them to be.
Gotcha.
So it does include that.
You answered my second question already, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Can I also ask a question?
Yes.
We have not been in the position, at least I haven't, on the council where we had to reconcile the potential for a deficit with the requirement that we have a balanced budget, yet we hold a reserve. Can you clue me in on how all of that works, at least briefly?
So technically it's not a deficit because we have so many reserves. I mean, technically, operationally it is because expenditures exceed revenues for the current year or for 2021. But because we have so much in reserves, I looked and our fund balance as of June 30, 2019 was $11,800,000. So yes, it would reduce the reserves, but this is kind of what we planned for as far as the city manager and I, and of course the council. And I don't think I answered your question completely, so please.
Yes, you did. That
Okay.
fills me in enough. I just didn't know how the requirement for the balance, whether, never mind. You've done
No.
all I needed.
No, you're fabulous. I appreciate those kinds of questions.
I have a question. Joanne, is there a rule of thumb for how much we should have and keep in reserves?
So actually, yes. We have a fund balance policy. And so we say that we want, and our fund balance policy is much more strict or conservative than what the Government Finance Officers Association recommends. But our policy says that we'll keep 50% of our expenditures. So every year I check that. We're around 73% right now. So we're further, we have even more money than what we say we need to have.
Okay, good.
Steve, have plans been made, or has the Parks and Rec Department discussed when things start opening up slowly, figuring out how to accommodate or do programs in a social distance manner? Like what I guess I'm trying to get is like certainly like I would imagine like gyms and everything like that won't open up, but will like classes and stuff like that open up in the essence that they could do it either outside or in the building in a manner that is within the guidelines of the CDC?
Is that to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they're talking about everything and everything you've heard and you can imagine regarding forecasting pool opening dates and all that. I mean, we just keep moving forward like it's going to happen, but everybody talks in groups with their peers and all that kind of stuff is being discussed. I think we're a ways away from that, but I don't know how far. Can we go back just a little bit?
Yes. Sure.
Joanne and the city manager didn't plan for this, but it, in my opinion, people think of a disaster as a tornado or something, and actually, we're not the home insurers, and we end up a little out of pocket on things like that. This is the disaster. So the accumulating reserves over the years, in our opinion, is precisely for something like this. And for the average taxpayer, when you're talking about being upside down $1 million, I'm sure that scares them. Reserves have grown. They've flattened out a little bit, but in the last 18 years, they've gone from 3 million to 11 and change. And we spend a little of it on special projects to bump up phasing on occasion, but by and large, we've saved that money. And so when Joanne said that's where it's at right now, that's where it's at with us. You're the ultimate authority on this. And at this point, we have raises left in there. They're small raises, like always, but you have a firefighter contract. You have police officers that we don't want to get away, and so at this point we're holding with that. You'll see all the travels out of the budget, all that kind of stuff. But as you know, we're very employee intensive because it's the service we provide. We firefighters and police officers and people that keep track of the finances and so forth is employee intensive, and that's what some 70% of our general fund budget. So the department directors have really came through. That number was several $100,000 higher than that for next year when we started the process. So a lot of work's been done. If it's not tolerable, you have the ability to change that, but we will rapidly reach the point of finalizing these numbers, and affecting it meaningfully will mean affecting salaries and affecting the quantity of employees. We don't lead the county in the number of public works employees per lane mile, nor do we in the number of police officers per square mile. And so that's not something, I'm not trying to make you guys the bad guy, but I would not readily offer up. We hope this is a one-off and that we tolerate this torment. We'll do the best we can. As you know, we usually leave a little money on the table, so we don't necessarily end up upside down. There's a lot of prognosticating and figuring out just what sales tax and everything is going to do. We're, making some of this up. But we have to have a certain number of employees, and we have to pay our utility bills, and we have to have fuel for the firefighters and the police officers and so forth. And we're running out of tricks, if you will. We've pushed some projects back a little bit that won't dump on your service level. Things we can tolerate, things we can use one more year, because capital improvement sales tax is a sales tax. The parks tax is a sales tax. Those revenues are affected. So there's been a lot of massaging. We are what we are, where we are, but we'll sit down and go through this all with you, and you can do things yourself, or you can send us back to look for more. So it's still, the numbers Joanne gave you were as of today. They probably won't be a lot different than that, but it is still fluid. I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank
Joanne,
you.
you had one more. I'm pointing you up there like you know who I'm pointing at. But the check that you mentioned today, remember Jerry saying that we weren't getting any support?
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
you mention that, please?
What? We
Yeah,
aren't getting
so-
any support? Yeah.
So today we received, or actually yesterday, we received a check in the amount of $10,500.
Oh, yay.
Or $10,750, sorry. And we didn't know who it was from. And we're like, what? And so we saw that it was an ACH from HHS, which stands for Health and Human Services. And so I did some more research, and I found out that municipalities who have an ambulance, firefighter, paramedics who work the ambulance, and where we collect Medicare payments, will get this money. So it's not a huge amount of money, but $10,750 is a nice amount. And so we are just supposed to use that money for those kinds of services. So if they need more protective gear or anything like that, that's what we will be using the money for.
Joanne, the document that I sent you last week was that program. The one that you were going to talk to Tom Yohe about?
So there is, I didn't get a chance to review all of that, but he had given me a whole bunch of material, and other cities do that with ambulances right now, where they can get additional funding.
Right.
I just haven't had a chance to implement it, but that's something I'll be bringing to the city council in a few months, Because if we could increase the fee that we charge for Medicare billing, it would be a nice amount of money. I think Kirkwood said they get $40,000 to $50,000 more, and maybe that's what. I'm sorry, I meant to review that in more detail, and I didn't.
No. It's
I just wanted to point out that, I mean, I think we have Steve and Joanne and the rest of the city staff and the mayor and the rest of past councils for where we are and where we stand. And I think that we stand as a epitome of what St. Louis County municipalities can be and demonstrate the effectiveness of what local government can do if it's run properly and with expertise. So I thank everyone that came before me and everyone that's currently here that's been here for a while for putting us in such a good position in such a terrible situation.
Thank you. And you know, in my conversations with a lot of other mayors, some of them have a lot of financial issues. Some of the North County mayors have a lot of senior facilities. They have staff members that are ill. We are in all round much, much better shape. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. We want to talk about under issues, the 4th of July. Steve, can we bring that up and talk about that a little?
I would encourage that, because any lead time
Yes.
we have will help. And I'll be brave, Laura. I think your little plan there is a nice one, and I've already talked to staff about it, and so do they. You know, you got the parade and the carnival are intense, talk about social distancing, you know, issues. And if we can fashion something that fits the community, I absolutely, I hope you talk about that tonight. I have one minor update. It's not on the work session agenda, as I think I told you, because we didn't expect to have any fireworks information solid. Well, as you know, some folks have dropped out of doing fireworks, and suddenly Gateway, who is not who did it last year, but who used to do our fireworks, is available on July 4th. So I will pass that on to you. You may very well see that as a frivolous expenditure in these budget times. I can speak to that. I can speak to how much we spend, how much we have. We have a little fund from donors in the past. There's ways to address that. So if you ended up in a spot where you fashioned a different celebration, if you will, but you still thought, maybe abbreviated so, but on July 4th, for spiritual reasons or any others, that you wanted to shoot some things up, we would make it air intensive, not ground intensive, to not encourage people to come. There's certain areas we could rope off a little bit that would discourage that, but we can still put something together on that if that appeals to you at all. So I just throw that in for your discussion.
What kind of time would you need in order, like if you know, I mean, we still have the whole month of May and June, obviously, and I know that planning requires planning, but if we were to say, hey, the curve has been eliminated, or the CDC comes out with different guidelines in the middle of May or the end of May, would that give us enough time in order to plan something that's smaller and scale compared to what we normally do in Webster?
Well, at this point, staff's going ahead like they think the whole thing might happen, right? So backing it off is an easier, is achievable. And, you know, some of these folks, you know, Mayor Nikki and Steve Clark have been running these events, and Scott's been here for years now, for a long time. So we know how to do it. But Scott also felt that what Laura threw out there, you know, that we could provide a lot of assistance in the communications and other things, mapping and so forth, necessary to help put something like that together. I mean, I do want to emphasize, not blowing smoke, he thought that was a good idea. The parade is an intensive thing, and a reverse parade might be well met in a community like ours.
So let's talk about it, because we could make that decision this evening. Laura, anything you want to speak to about your proposal?
You know, it just sort of was something that David mentioned at our last meeting. If we're not going to do
Yes.
our traditional thing, we should think about what it is that we can do as a community to continue the celebration. As all of you know, we have done this forever, and we've had staff who's done it forever and who's very capable. So it seemed like thinking about an alternative was something that we could turn around pretty quickly. The parade is central to what we do. I mean, that's one thing we do that lots of other communities don't seem to do on the 4th. And so having people build their float in their front yard and providing a map so that people could drive and see it seemed like something that we could pull off that would allow for social distancing and would not, and then I built in a few places to donate to the Lions Scholarship Fund, to donate to the Chamber of Commerce Small Business Fund, so that we can, especially for the Lions, perhaps, if that scholarship money goes away, we can help them a little bit and perhaps getting some of that back. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that today we should decide the 4th of July is canceled, but you know, the more we hear about, you know, the phases in which we're going to roll out opening up the country and business, really intense gatherings like the parade, even by July, are going to be hard for us to pull off in this metropolitan area. And if we're the only game in town, and I think I said this at our last meeting, we just run the risk of having even bigger crowds than we usually do and intensifying the problem. And that's the part that worries me.
I think this
Well
would
said.
be great. Would anybody like to add to this and suggest that maybe we make some decision this evening?
I would suggest we go forward with Laura's plan, you know, modifications as taken, but I think that's a good idea. And I'm very cautious about fireworks because all the other communities around here apparently have already canceled theirs. Is that right, Steve? And that
Not
word
all
gets
of
out.
them.
That
Not
word
all
gets
of
out.
them, but several have, yes.
Yeah, well, the word gets out, then that's going to attract people here. You can't blame them.
I like Laura's idea of creating some type of alternative celebration, just like David mentioned last meeting.
Yep.
I think the time is now to start planning it so the community will know in a good time frame to start their planning.
So does somebody want to make that as a proposal here?
Mayor, if you don't mind, I was just going to add that I think you mentioned to me before about the idea of like, we can do something when this is all said and done, and we can do more of a celebration, whether it's the 4th of July or something else. So we can reserve the funds, or we can use the funds if we have them to do something bigger or better when it's actually safe to do so. And to me, that seems to be the most appropriate way of going about this currently, is to play it safe and try to defeat this, and we can celebrate later.
So celebrate with fireworks later, but in the meantime, shall we try the reverse parade?
Yes.
I think that Laura's proposal was unbelievable. I thought it was a really good
That's
idea,
great.
and I think that we should go forward with it.
All right. Any motion to do that?
You have a bit of an audience. You might want to summarize a little bit what you wrote to council, Laura.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Well, the idea is that instead of people coming to the parade, that we create the opportunity for people to go to floats or house decorations that have been built in front yards. And we'd have the theme contest that we always have. We'll pick a theme. Hopefully people will get the opportunity to vote on that theme. Decorations will go up, say, Thursday night and come down Sunday. The city website will have a map of everyone who's registered to participate in the contest. You'll get to vote for the best float, the best house, the best related to the theme, many of the usual categories we have in the parade. And at each time that we provide an opportunity for people to either register or vote or enter the theme contest, we provide opportunities for donations to the Small Business Recovery Fund for the city as well as to the Lions Club Scholarship Fund so that they get those as well. And I'm going to say right now, very clearly, I have a whole lot of faith in Mickey and Scott and other people in Parks and Rec to make improvements to this plan. So whereas I'm happy that you all thought this was not a totally harebrained idea, I don't have a pride of ownership that means don't change it. Let's make it, where they can find improvements to it, I'd love to see those.
Great.
I feel like an appropriate theme this year would be like healthcare workers, essential workers, something like that.
Essential workers.
I'm just throwing that idea out there. I think that your plan was really good, Laura. I really do. And I think that would be a very Webster community oriented thing for us to do. And it'll also continue our tradition here in Webster Groves.
It does take care of all of that. So shall we just say all of us in favor of moving this proposal to the reverse parade instead of the regular parade? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so there we go. Steve, you had mentioned cost. Have you come up with an idea of what this total community days has cost us annually?
It's substantially in police overtime
And fire.
Joanne, you can help me out, but it's somewhere in the low 50s. Now that doesn't count fireworks. I think we send up between the teaser and the regular fireworks about 17,500, and the teaser has been a shorter show, I believe. I may have this a little fouled up, but I think that's what it is. Some of that has come from donations, Waste Management and the Lions, and others have contributed to that. I believe we budgeted out of our own money $10,000 for the year we're in for our portion of it. We have a separate little fund that's dwindling, but it's been around for years, that donations that were extra went into. That doesn't really affect the general fund. It's set off to the side. That has $24,000 in it, and it has been used as needed for a $2,000 community days related problem or something that might come up. So I bring that up only because, for 10 grand, you can probably get, you can get the show is, the pace of the show is what determines how long it lasts. So you can command whatever you want, but typically at the rate our fireworks go up, you're probably looking at about 15 minutes for 10 grand. And if it didn't feel right to you to be using the general fund in our current situation for that, we do have that little thing off the side. It's tax money, but it's tax money that's just because it's in our hands right now. It came from donors and so forth. So if we wanted to still have an abbreviated event or a 10-minute, $7,000 or $8,000 show, just so everybody knows we're still alive, that's what that would be. So to answer your question, Jerry, probably if you throw all the overtime and everything together with the fireworks, it's about 70 grand.
Yeah, I know one of my fellow mayors said that their 4th of July celebration cost them in the 90s by the time they paid overtime for everybody. So what do we know about the carnival? Because if we have the carnival and fireworks, then you've got people everywhere. What do we know? The Lions,
They're waiting for us.
Do they make the decision, or do we?
Yeah, they're waiting for us.
So we make the decision.
That's their big money maker for the year. So they're interested to do it. And if there's an all clear sounded, I believe they will put it on. I believe also they have inquired about a similar type event, only maybe one that comes in September or October. But fundamentally, they just sort of await our decision. So you gave me some parade clarity clarity on feelings about the carnival, or we can make this an agenda item next time. That's not too late. For the carnival and for the fireworks,
Well,
the big
let's
three,
separate,
you know.
Well,
let's
they could,
separate
they,
them.
they could still do a fundraiser with at least food, you know, barbecuing and maybe doing deliveries or some kind of thing to get the, you know, to get the mood, even if they don't have the event, the carnival event, they could do some kind of food fundraiser to go with our reverse parade.
They could do something, and I'm sure we would go down that road, but I will tell you, and they will tell you, that it's the fireworks. They'd have fireworks all 4 nights of community days if they could get them. That's what draws people out, and as well as the carnival. So yes, they could have some event, but you know, it would be as lucrative for their annual fundraising purposes.
Do we have any idea how much money they typically make on a 4th of July weekend or several days?
No.
I think it's like 90 or 100,000. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but like based off of my understanding, I thought it was quite significant.
It is, and it's I don't know how much we should talk about that. That may be their business a little bit, but yeah, those kind of numbers are not unreasonable. It varies from year to year depending on the weather, and but I have heard numbers. They probably wouldn't want you to inflate it, but you know, I've heard 80 some before, you know, in a decent year and so forth. They'll candidly tell you it's their big event, you know.
Are we talking about 3 different items? The parade, fireworks, and then the carnival?
Yes,
That's
they're
what I'm
3
pushing for.
Yes, they're 3 different
Okay,
items.
I didn't want to make sure. So we know we're gonna do an alternative celebration for the parade.
Yes.
And now so we need to decide if we're going to do the fireworks and the Lions Carnival.
Yes, or you need to form a little committee and meet real quick in this manner, or you need to, you know, feel the pulse of your constituents a little bit, and we can put it on the next work session agenda. It's up to you.
I would like to hear what everybody got to say about it.
Yeah. What do you think, Bud?
We got a town hall meeting Thursday night. Maybe that could be a quick question. 300
Oh,
people.
Oh, no.
No. Don't go there with me. They're already planned out. No. So
Yeah, I
anybody
wouldn't-
I'm really nervous about a carnival. I think that you're talking about things that people touch all the time. They ride that stuff. It makes me very nervous to think about us hosting the carnival. Fireworks, I want to think about.
I tend to agree with you, Mayor, partly because if we've already canceled the parade, and that seems to have a little bit more social distancing than a carnival does, it seems logical that we would at least cancel the carnival as well. And I would also say this, like, I mean, I think leadership requires hard decisions, and unfortunately it requires just that leadership. And I think if we're going to try to beat this, then I think it's going to require government to step in and say, hey, this is not appropriate, or this is not right for us to be doing as a community. So I would tend to agree that we should cancel the carnival at least, or postpone the carnival until a later time when it's more safe for citizens to actually congregate.
Yeah, I
And
like
so-
those.
Good idea. September maybe.
I like those comments about postpone the carnival and maybe the fireworks. It might be in a better position at that time.
In addition, it may be that the Lions find their chance for revenue is greater if we postpone, and people's fear of being out has abated some as well.
Mhm.
Because even if we go forward, at that point in time, I imagine there'll be a lot of families, even if given permission, will say, I'm not comfortable doing that yet. So it may actually be in the Lions' best interest to postpone for a couple of months as well.
And you know, I'm sorry for the Lions, but I think everybody is hurting financially now. Our businesses are hurting, nonprofits aren't raising money, and so it's not that they're singled out here. Pam? We haven't heard from you.
Well, no, I was just thinking, if there's an opportunity to go along with this reverse parade for them to participate somehow and contribute so that they're not completely not locked out, but they're not missing out on a July 4th celebration.
Do I have a motion from someone to eliminate or postpone the carnival?
Sure, I
So
can make that
so moved.
motion.
I make a motion to postpone the carnival until another date.
Is there a
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, Steve.
Can I
I guess you're the one who will call the Lions. Yes? Go ahead, David.
Yeah,
Is anyone else's volume kind of weird, like it's shaky, or is it just me?
I think it's just you.
It's just
I
your
think
voice.
it's you. Your voice
All
was
right.
just shaky there for a second.
Oh, you on your Apple product?
No, I'm on a PC.
Yeah, your microphone's off. Okay, so next is the fireworks, and shall we hold off on that a little bit? Maybe discuss that at our next meeting? Seeing whether we want to do something minor or whether we want to postpone it until another date. Do you have an opinion about that?
My opinion is just postpone it to another date.
And
Okay, go ahead.
why not tie it into when we do the carnival? So
Right.
fireworks attract carnival attendees and do them on the same weekend or whatever.
I agree with that, Bud.
Okay, is there a motion to postpone the fireworks?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We're not sure if David's hooked up yet.
Yeah, I think he's fallen. There he might be.
Oh, there he is.
Back,
Oh, he's coming
not
back.
just a minute.
Whoops.
Okay.
There
David,
he is.
David, are you with us?
still working on audio, David?
Doesn't look like it's muted.
Did we have one opposed to the fireworks?
I don't think we heard from David, though.
No, we haven't heard from David. No.
Now he's,
And now
now he's leaving.
Walking on.
Walking out of the room.
Yeah, that vote didn't sound right. Somebody said aye or
Somebody voted against it.
I didn't
Yeah.
hear a nay.
That's what I heard.
All I heard was ayes.
I was a late aye. I was
Ah,
Oh,
okay.
that's what it is.
That must be it.
I didn't want to blend in.
then,
Well, we'll
Okay.
talk to the Lions about all of that, and there may be some valuable input for you to still consider.
Yes. Yeah, I think this feels better. We're in line with everybody else.
The community will know which direction that we're going, and they'll be able to plan accordingly.
Yeah.
And I like that idea Laura had as far as a fundraiser for the Lions.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that'll be good. All right, we'll wait till we get David back in and move on to our next agenda item. Let's see if we can get David with us.
David?
He's not muted.
Still showing up on the list of attendees or participants.
And he's not muted.
No.
Yeah.
He's got an equipment problem,
Can you hear us?
probably.
It's your turn, Colin.
Lost his internet connection, maybe.
Yeah. Katie, can one of you guys call them?
Yes, that's what we're gonna do.
So he could participate. We can see him and have him on the phone at the same
Calling
time.
now.
All right, thanks. He's moving to a different computer and said you all can continue on talking, and he will join you in a second.
Got that?
Yeah, got that.
Yep.
I think we want him on for the PR discussion.
He didn't know that was coming up, and said to go on, so he should just be a moment.
While we're waiting for David, I spoke with Jim Whitney. The Supreme Court has continued the closure of Missouri courts until May the 15th, and he has canceled all courts through May. He was watching to see if they were going to reopen, but at this point, everything is closed through May. And when we begin June,
Oh, man. Dropping like flies.
huge crowd of people, figure out a way to do maybe 10 people at a time. And so they're thinking about it, but at least for now, for the month of May, courts will be closed.
Neil, you froze up just for a few minutes there.
I said that the municipal courts will be closed through the month of May. The Supreme Court has closed all Missouri courts through May the 15th. And so again, with an effort, with an idea towards making sure they're maintaining social distancing, the Army.
It must be in the words he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because he's an attorney.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, actually.
That's funny.
This picture is frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil, you're frozen in time here.
You'll forever be 62.
Yep.
What did I do?
You froze.
You froze. Now you froze again. It's nice to take a tour of
I hope
everybody's
I was
house.
smiling in the frozen picture. All right. Believe me, that'll never happen, Mayor.
Oh, the mayor's frozen,
No,
unfrozen.
the mayor is not frozen.
Yeah, we were for a split second. We lost Neil.
It's
Yeah,
probably
I'm sure he
rebooting.
probably signed out.
You'll hide. Okay. Now he has a mask.
I thought I was the only one.
I guess we can call.
Back,
I'm back.
All right.
but we still don't have David.
And where's Pam? Is Pam still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yep.
We can try David and put him on a speakerphone,
Looks like
but
That would be good.
we're gonna do that because it looks frozen as well.
well, he's
Getting a new
on
one.
that one going on the computer.
Okay.
So I don't know if we'll.
Katie, would you like to use my iPhone?
Oh, we're just gonna call and put him on speaker, I think.
Okay.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, wait, are you there? I think you are there now. It's moving.
Can't hear.
Okay.
So
Okay,
we have him on speakerphone?
I'm working on it. All right. I'm hoping that my phone doesn't make everything go feedbacky.
Good, we have everybody. All right, now let's go on to this PR discussion then. And Steve, you're going to lead this for us because you're the one who's done all the background checking on this.
Well, I don't think I was the only one. Yeah, it is getting hold of people right now is difficult, but Stratcom RX, we do indeed have we had an agreement with them from 2014 that doesn't terminate. Their rates haven't changed. The hourly rate for their services was $185. I spoke to the Muni League. Their work with the Muni League was better together. Heavy. Nothing bad to say about them. as they're being used as needed now. Pat Kelly satisfied with their work. He wasn't real gabby. He might be a little distracted, as is everyone right now. I spoke to MSD. They noted that Kelly has worked with them, with Mac Bradley of Standpoint. Again, nothing bad to say about Kelly or Heather. And I spoke to Beyond Housing, and they were very flattering. Stratcom helped them provide necessary communications regarding code enforcement, video work, outreach on their endeavor to upgrade codes in communities, and they have some in-house marketing help, and they provided supplementary assistance for that. Vector's rates are Courtney, that you heard telephonically, as I recall, rate is $125 an hour. Lorna's, who made the presentation, is $210. She referred to a blended rate of $130. They worked with Clayton, as you know, relative to the Centene issues, such as helping Clayton communicate to the public, message to the public about tax abatement, traffic, and other issues. They worked with Courtney. She was fine. Wordsmith documents that into better form that the city of Clayton was interested in getting out. Found her responsive, available, and with good insight. Hazelwood has a $4,000 monthly retainer with Vector. They work strictly with Courtney, and Gabrielle was the name. Good ideas, observant, forward-looking. I'm not all sure what all Hazelwood has going on, but they have them on a monthly retainer right now. I also talked to Springfield, Illinois, who was listed as a reference and actually never hired them. It's my understanding Springfield has a big rail project, because I did talk to somebody with Springfield, communications person in the mayor's office. They have a big rail project. Just from what I got from it, they're moving track and it's affecting streets, opening streets, a multi-million-dollar project. And, but it was the engineering firm that hired Vector. The person in the mayor's office did speak freely with me, and I'd be a little reticent to communicate some of that. I would have to sanitize it quite a bit. And they did not engage Vector. I also called, and I tried in that instance to get to someone with the engineering firm. They haven't called me back. I also, she was going to attempt to get somebody in their own public works department that worked closer than she did at times, because they worked with the engineering firm on issues. And I have not heard back from him either. Vector went to Springfield and hired a local person to work for that engineering firm in the name of Vector. And also they sent somebody from here part of the time is what I got out of it. I also called another city here that they gave me as a reference. And they had been associated with work in that city, but again, it was not that community that actually engaged Vector, and they did not have much to say about it. So that's what I got.
Yeah. I think it's really important for us to think about what is it that we actually want this PR firm to do. That's what I keep thinking about. All of the community engagement is being done by Standpoint. We've been able to, I think with Jennifer, been able to keep a lot of things going. And so it's really important to me to understand what we're asking this firm to do before we go ahead and hire somebody.
I agree with that. I'm still questioning whether we need our own public relations firm.
I will tell you, there was a little of what I gleaned from some of these conversations was that indeed the municipalities use them for supplementary assistance, for wordsmithing. And when they would decide they want to get some message out, they want to participate. But well, I'll just tell you, the one I called that didn't engage them was Crestwood. And so they were engaged by somebody with the big mall project, not Crestwood. And Crestwood chose not to have anybody. And I left that there. You know, that was, well, something was supposed to happen there in 2018, 2019, and it probably won't happen in 2020. And I just moved on and attempted to reach and then what I got in Springfield. So, but you're right. I think they're going to be, if we envision that we're running this thing, I don't think that's what you're going to see Thursday night.
Well, I know I'm the one that's been thinking we really needed to look into this for a number of reasons. And I mean, my point of view is I don't think any efforts that Jerry and Standpoint have made to now doesn't represent us. But I am a fan of SG Collaborative, and this is not anything to impede their process, but I do feel strongly that we need to remain objective and listening to all the voices of our community in relating to this project. Having worked on community projects with community engagement firms, I think that having the other team just enhances the final product. It does not impede it. It does not detract from it. And I think the more information from the various entities and from the community's point of view will help inform what they produce. And so I guess what I'm saying is that I think we can use the creative insight from those, either one of those companies. And I did talk to several references for each of them. I can let you know who I talked to and what their comments were. There were no bad comments from anyone about any of them. Some of them I called randomly. So I'll just go through that quickly. I contacted Jacobs Engineering for Stratcom, and what drew me to call them is just looking at their website and seeing they worked on Envision I-70, which was a project about I-70. And they said, they helped organize communications, they led public meetings, which I know Standpoint will do, and that they worked together with them on the I-70 project and the Brentwood Bound project, which is still underway. I also contacted the Missouri Foundation for Health, and they have a project that they said StratCom was there for them 100%. The priority for them was to make sure all voices were heard, very diverse group of constituents. And then for Vector, I did talk to Matt Zimmerman, who was with the city of Hazelwood, and he said it was a fire district negotiations that they helped them with, and they said it was great to have Vector help them navigate a complicated political issue. I also spoke to Tom Chulik, who is the CEO of the St. Louis Regional Chamber, where right off the bat, he said, well, we have 1,100 constituents, and on the federal, state, and local level, he's got a lot of coordination that he has to do. He says that Vector sat with them to help create a strategic plan. He thought it was important to have an objective voice, someone kind of slightly not a key player, but to help present objectively to constituents, and that they regularly engage in those projects. And then I also spoke to Jim Wild, who's executive director of the East-West Gateway Council of Governments, and he said there certainly is value in having our own community engagement firm to represent us in our interests. And he said that they would do parallel efforts with a developer, but that from our point of view, it would be good to speak on our behalf and listen on our behalf.
I'm going to make a recommendation. Having been working with this, I think we're probably not going to want to invest in a parallel process, because I think the two processes will just butt against each other. We've got a good process going. But where I see that we could use some help is making sure that we get the word out, that making sure that we help with the wording, that sort of thing. And I have to tell you, having worked with Kelly and Heather, who lives here, knows our community and knows the resources that we have and the ways in which we communicate. If we're going to hire anyone, I would recommend that we hire them to help us through ensuring that, rather than coming up with a whole new process. I think Vector, if we were going to do a big strategic plan, we were going to do a big community engagement, maybe that would be useful. But I'd like to see us, I mean, Heather lives practically across the street from City Hall. She gets it. She knows the community, and I think she would help us in that regard. And that's my recommendation.
Well, Jerry, I guess going back to your original question, what are we looking for from that other PR firm? I mean, that Vector can't give us that this other company can. I mean, you're going back to your initial question, is that we, what are we looking for from this additional PR firm?
Right. And that's what I'm thinking we're looking for, is just some help with communication and making sure that we reach out to the community.
Okay, so that's what we're
and not an alternative process. So that's just my recommendation.
Well, I mean, when I use the word parallel, I meant parallel, which is not the same as, bumping into each other. And so they would together as professionals create a strategy, especially when we get to the charrette form, and then in the third meeting where there's going to be they're going to be presenting design and looking for feedback. I think it's vital that we have, and I'm not either one of these firms, I think it's vital that we have one of these firms there to help show that we are listening and responding to who's out there.
There's another thought too with this town hall we're going to have Thursday. Why don't we see how that goes? And then make this decision whether we want to hire anybody else to supplement that at our next meeting.
We don't want anybody to come in late to the game. I think they need to be there from the start.
Yeah, I would rather have somebody there to listen and watch the comments and responses from the community and be able to kind of put that in the package for us.
Mhm.
Steve, forgive me, I had some technical difficulties. What were the cost differentials for both companies?
The standing
What was the-
agreement, the standing
what-
agreement we have with Stratcom is $185 an hour.
Okay,
And then the Vector Communications blended rate was 130. Courtney was 125, and Lorna was 215.
But quite frankly, we don't know who we would get, do we?
We would get Courtney. That's what she said in her March 17th, in our March 17th meeting over the phone. I think it would be yeah,
I suspect that's right, yeah.
that's what they said in that meeting.
Yes.
Well, if they're both well qualified and we want to have this supplement along with the project PR firm, which one will cost us the less?
I will say this, I have been extremely impressed thus far with the communication that has been received from the current SG Collaborative firm.
Yes.
And I do think that they have been effective. And if they were to continue in this manner, then I think that anything that we do could possibly be duplicative and be a waste of resources. So I think that that's worthy of a discussion as to figuring out what should we be doing differently, or what would anything that any company that we hire be doing differently that would supplement or add to what has currently been done, or at least the manner that it's currently being done in.
I think David has a really good point. And perhaps, I don't know what we would lose by getting through the town hall meeting so you would see exactly what they're doing. I think you're going to have every bit of data that anybody has. There's not something that anybody's going to hide from anyone. You can see their processes. They're working on and thinking through how to do a charade process in May. They're really concerned about how you do that electronically. So I guess I've had the advantage of talking with them a lot. So anyhow, and I'm concerned with Steve's sanitization also, which I would offer in addition with a conversation that I had, but I don't want to go there.
My question is, and how do we get more comfortable with the Standpoint and SG Collaborative's process, other than just being an attendee at the town hall?
Can I just follow up on that? My concern is that if we rely only on SG Collaborative, and I agree to this point, they have been open, their outreach has been good, but their interests are having this process go forward, and we need to find out from the community the degree to which they're supportive of that. So our interests aren't 100% aligned. And at this point, I understand that their willingness to take input is been well received, and it should be. I worry further on down the process about making sure that everyone has a voice, and every voice that they hear is communicated to us.
Isn't that our responsibility, Laura?
Yeah.
To some degree, yes, it is, but I agree. To some degree, it is. However, there are professionals who know how to do outreach to underserved communities, or communities who do not rely on Facebook as much as other people. I don't have that professional expertise. And so engaging someone, maybe it's engaging someone to help us figure out what that plan is, to make sure that we have that outreach in place and we execute it ourselves. Okay, maybe that's a point where we go. But to rely solely on somebody whose interests aren't necessarily 100% aligned with ours to be creating these events. And Mayor, you're right. You have a huge advantage over the rest of us.
Yeah, I
We have
do.
not seen inside any of these meetings, any of these
Yeah.
discussions, and you sent us a short update. But I am uncomfortable with having only one member of the council really participate in this process, in the planning and development stages. I don't think that gives the rest of us the same kind of level of information to make decisions.
Would it be more advantageous if we put a little committee together? I mean, I'm hearing, Laura, from you that your big concern is that there are groups and communities out there that aren't being reached. And
Well,
if
I don't mean that we can judge that now. We've just started this process. But the last thing I want is for us to go 6 weeks down the road and then have somebody who really hasn't had a chance for whatever reason to engage come with a whole set of concerns that move us in a different direction or provide a big roadblock. And I'm also concerned that we make sure that this, whatever this turns out to be, is the project that our community wants.
Yeah, and that's, if we've got we'll probably have 300 community members participate in this town hall, which is a pretty good start. I don't know if we're comfortable at this point. Would you prefer us to put a small group together to communicate with Standpoint and see where this goes and go from there?
I would like to have our own representation, and those are professionals like, well, I'm for Vector. I would rather have Vector as the
I know
PR
you are for Vector.
And they need to start at the beginning of the project, not in the middle. You start a committee, 3-4 people, that's going to take maybe a couple of weeks to get together. I would just say we need to hire a PR firm to make sure they protect what the community wants and what we want.
It's one thing to reach an audience or a group of stakeholders, but it's a whole other thing to hear them and to respond to them. I think we need to, and I think if we have someone hired by the city to look out for that part of the process will go smoother later on, and the outcomes will be better later on.
Okay, so I'm hearing Emerson in favor of Vector. I would propose StratRx.
David, I
I'm
knew what
hearing
that
the
was.
rest of you being silent because you don't want to take sides in this, right?
No, I mean, I am for Vector. I was the one that recommended them. I called Vector and I called, I'm sorry, I can't even think of the other name. I did not call them, but that's who I put forth to Steve. I think there is value in the breadth of their experience for these more governmental type projects. And I think it is good for someone to not have a history because they're going to be looking at it through a different lens and a new lens. But I have no problem with hiring Stratcom, but I am just looking forward to working with Vector.
Okay. So
Pam, just so I'm clear, you're saying no matter what, we need to hire someone.
Yes.
All right. I feel like that's maybe an easier question to answer at this point. Like, do we have consensus do we have a majority vote that that we should hire someone?
I say yes.
Sounds like we do. More people want it than not.
yeah, if more people want to hire someone, it's what we want them to do.
I'll tell you, my thought was, I was impressed. It's been a while ago. I was impressed by Vector because the owner of the company came and made the presentation.
Stratcom, I didn't, no, I guess she wasn't. She was a principal though, right?
Yes, she is the principal.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you for a while. Somebody asked, my internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, mine keeps saying that too, but.
Just be
All
mindful.
right, let's try to make some sort of decision here. David, Laura, Bud, where are you guys?
You know, in my mind, I think that the purpose of this is obviously twofold. I think one, to assist us in this project. Again, I will reiterate that I think that the current firm is doing an okay job, and it seems a little bit premature right now for me to say we need to hire someone. But assuming that we are going to go forward and hiring someone, I also want this person or this company to assist us going forward in ensuring that we have the direct or the communication channels as a city, and they can assist us in that. Because if we had those communication channels already, I don't know if this conversation or this hiring would necessarily be would be required. So I'm fine with either, and I don't. It doesn't bother me. I like the Stratcom in the essence that they're right here in Webster, or that there's a Webster Groves connection. I'm perfectly fine with Vector. They impressed me. I thought the presentation was good. I'll go with whatever everyone else wants to do on this.
Laura, you have a
That's a,
thought?
I'm dodging. You're right, Emerson.
yeah.
So
At least I'm conceding it.
I
Yeah.
know.
don't worry, David, I'm about to do the same thing. So maybe not quite so much. I would like for us to hire someone. I do think it is important, though, that we define the scope of what we want them to do, because it can be a very limited scope. And I agree with David's point that whatever we ask them to do, I hope that we preserve as a channel of communication for use well after whatever this project turns out to be is finished. And I frankly am comfortable with both as well. I guess if you were going to force me to choose and hold my feet to the fire, I'd choose Vector, but it's a really, to me, they're both good companies that should facilitate what we want to do. But I do want us to emphasize with them that we have a limited scope of work for them.
Okay, so I'm hearing that the majority of you would like to hire Vector. Does this mean that we want to make sure we get one of those folks that we've met, or are we just going to take anybody that they give us? Because I will tell you, I have heard that in the conversations I have had, that someone will be assigned to us.
Well, we can make that part of the deal. We get the same person, but I think getting back to your very first question, and Pam brought it up again, and Emerson, exactly what are expectations of this person to do?
And that's what we're not clear about.
Well,
Exactly.
one thing that I think was a good idea, Jerry, is that we do have maybe a committee so that there's more than you. A, it spreads the work, and B, there's more of us to interpret what's happening. And I think you and Jen have done a great job, but I think maybe there should be several of us that are involved a little bit more.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I think that it is important that all of us get involved. I think we stepped in pretty quickly, and Jennifer, you have to remember, has a journalism degree.
Yes.
We stepped in pretty quickly to get the postcard out and to get things put together as quickly as we could. With the town hall meeting coming forward. Can we explore and see who we would get from Vector before we would make that decision? I mean, rather than have them assign somebody to us that we don't know. You all were impressed with what we heard? I would become more comfortable if I knew who the person was that we would be working with, rather than the person who is assigned to us, who may not even stay with us through the project.
Well, that we don't know, Jerry. I mean, based on what.
No. We need to know who it is from that firm that will be working with us. I think, Emerson, that's a very critical piece of information that we need to know.
Sure, but maybe we can help define that. If we define what our expectations are, then we tell the owner, this is what we're looking for. Who's your best person that can stick with this job all the way through?
Right.
I don't know if it works like that.
Well, then
I
then
think
we
it
don't go
does.
with them. Then we don't go with them.
Well, that's Pam. You can. So how does it work? Like, I mean, this is new to me. So
I think you need a scope. And we need to get to our council meeting. So I think I'm hearing that you all are in favor of hiring Vector. I think we would ask Steve to explore who that person is, whether we will have somebody like, what's her name, Courtney, whether Courtney would be working with us or not. I think that's important to know, or whether we will get somebody that they just hired. I think all of those things are really important. And then maybe several of us can sit down with that person and talk about the scope and what we expect from them. I think that might be a better idea.
That's
way to
well
go.
said.
Okay,
Yes,
all right with y'all?
yes.
Okay.
And see if they can be involved on Thursday night, just to
Yeah,
listen.
all they need to do is sign up and listen on
Yeah.
Thursday night. So, good. Okay. All right. I don't know about you. I have to take a 2-second break before we start our council meeting. If anybody else needs a 2-second break, I'm going to walk out of here for 2 seconds, 2 minutes.
You
All
can
right?
stop your video, Jerry, if you want.
Go. Somebody else who needs to.
Time for a snack.
We have other folks out taking a break.
Couple of them are.
Good. Like Steve, I have a little calico cat that's dying to get in here and visit with you all.
but I like your boxing gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar Ray Leonard.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Signed.
Oh wow, that's awesome. How'd you
Wow.
Well, I didn't get him personally. My daughter got him for me.
get those? That's awesome. We should do a little show and tell during the next Zoom. Everyone bring your favorite item.
You're on your sailboat. How'd you do that?
This is the view out my window.
Right.
Oh, that's nothing, bud. I'm in San Francisco.
Been across that bridge a few times.
Yeah, me too.
So Laura and Pam, they're not back yet. Laura's back.
Yep, I'm here.
That's Pam that we're waiting for. And Pam's back in a different place.
Yes, I had to get recharged.
Okay, let's call the regular council meeting to order. And Katie, could you start with the roll call?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor Welsh,
Here.
Councilmember Palomo,
Here.
Councilmember Arnold,
Here.
Councilmember Bliss,
Here.
Councilmember Franklin,
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
All right, our first agenda item is remarks of visitors, and we have received several of them, and Neil has agreed to read them.
Lucky me. Katie, let me make sure I've got the right ones. I have the ones that you have actually marked as remarks of visitors. Those are the only ones, right?
Correct, there's 3 of them.
3 of them, okay. So the first one is from Mark Middleman. It says, and I'm going to read these as they're written. I won't correct any grammatical errors or anything like that.
Neil, oh,
Sorry, am I frozen?
yes.
Am I back?
You're
Can you
back.
hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
I'm back. Okay. Dan Brzini of the Webster Park Association suggested that I copy and send to you these thoughts, which I had given to him on Pacific Place redevelopment proposal. Quote, Dan, here are my thoughts. Please try to use your platform to present them to SG and City Council on behalf of Webster Park, especially if other neighbors agree with them. I do not want to see any more apartments like the L on Lockwood anywhere close to our neighborhood. I wish the L on Lockwood had not been permitted at all, but the Pacific Place area strikes me as a good place for apartment or condo development, maybe even high rises, particularly at the north end near the railroad tracks. I doubt we need more retail or office space in Webster Groves, but if we do, that could be mixed in with the multifamily housing. At the south end along Kirkham, more green space would be useful to offset the higher density development at the north end. Signed, Mark Middleman, 237 Rosemont. The next one that I have is from Daniel Brzini, dated 20 April. Dear Mayor and council members of Webster Groves, below are my questions for the 21 April 2020 council meeting. Please don't hesitate to contact me directly if you have any questions. Sincerely, Dan. Number 1, will the city of Webster Groves be canceling the 4th of July community days? Doing so would decrease the risk of COVID-19 transmission, not only from Webster Groves neighbors, from those outside of Webster Groves, whose cities have already canceled their 4th of July community gatherings. Will Webster Groves cancel its 4th of July fireworks, just as Fair St. Louis has done? Number 2, regarding the city of Webster Groves considering hiring a second PR firm to promote and solicit input of the SG Collaborative. Why do we need to pay for a second PR firm when the SG claiming their goals? The SG Collaborative, a virtual town hall on 23 April. It would seem the SG Collaborative is already doing the PR work for which they are being paid. Additional PR, as a council member noted during the 7 April session, should be the council member's job to get the word out and engage the community. 2 PR firms for 1 project may not only be overkill, but also run the risk of having too many chefs and thus will spoil the PR campaign. Number 3, regarding the city of Webster Groves assessing a new internet sales tax. How much, how would it be collected, and from whom would it be collected? To what city fund would it be directed? Will it be increased in the future using what criteria and for what purposes? What is the expected amount to be gained if implemented? Webster Groves businesses, Webster Groves, or impact onto we, their customers. Have you discussed this internet sales tax with the Webster Groves Chamber of Commerce, with local businesses who do all of their sales online? Number 4, given that COVID-19 pandemic is economically worse than the financial crisis of 2008, which took us years from which to recover, should the SG Collaborative be continued, stopped, or businesses are struggling to survive, consumers have lost their jobs, and the city of Webster Groves tax collection will be drastically reduced? How likely will a new development prosper in this economic environment? How will the city of Webster Groves offer tax incentives given its drastically reduced tax base? Will people be able to patronize new establishments or /apartments? Have you consulted the Webster Groves Chamber of Commerce to get their input? Number 5, giving the concerns Mayor Welch expressed over fund
We've lost you, Neil.
to the mayor to lower city of Webster Groves costs. Tell me when I'm back. Am I back?
You're back.
Start with number 5 again.
Given the concerns Mayor Welch expressed over funding the police, fire, EMS before COVID-19, what plans do the mayor and the council have to lower the city of Webster Grove's costs? Specifically, will there be any personnel layoffs, projects placed on hold, projects abandoned, salary reductions, moratorium on bonds, public service reductions, committee furloughs, etc.? Number 6, given City of Webster Grove's fiscal concerns today, does it still make economic sense to Proposition Y, which is for incurring a $500 million bond debt for the Metropolitan St. Louis Sewer District that will have to be paid back? Would this and other debt-inducing bond issues be best avoided until we know exactly how severe the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic quarantine? Are there other bond issues facing Webster Groves we should consider postponing or stopping altogether? Finally, number 7, is there any additional City of Webster Groves taxation to apply to developments greater than a certain dollar amount, for example, $500K? If yes, to what fund will this money be sent? For what purpose? And who has the authority to use it? Will this apply to the SG Collaborative, to the Marshall Avenue Improvement Project, to residential houses, to housing improvements? And then the third and final one is from Dave Buck. And it says, thanks for this opportunity. First and most importantly, I hope that City Council and City staff and your families are staying safe, well, and healthy at home. Secondly, I wish to share an idea which Jerry is also aware of. It is a judged small idea, but one that is very positive, timely, and needed. As you know, in various cities around our country, citizens are going to their windows, front porches, or lawns, and they are expressing their thanks and appreciation of healthcare workers and first responders with applause or banging pots and pans. This also began in Webster Groves, but to my knowledge, has not been sustained. So here's a simple idea that doesn't cost a single penny or take a lot of time and energy. Webster Groves has more churches per square mile than any other of the 91 municipalities in St. Louis County. Many of these churches have church bells. Thus, the simple idea is to pick one day and one time every week, and for 1 minute, have all the churches coordinate in unity, ringing their bells. Such ringing of the bells will be heard across our community and joyfully raise our spirits, share our collective thanks and appreciation, and as a remembrance of all those who have lost their lives. If City Council likes and supports this idea, I think you can give our church leaders a little nudge to make this idea a reality. I think our churches give the idea a big yes and simply say, wait. That's it. Thanks for reading it. Peace, Dave. As the father of a nurse, I like that idea.
Great. All right, and we typically don't respond to marks or visitors, but Mr. Bruzzini had a lot of questions that, we've already done the 4th of July issue tonight, so if he was listening to our work session tonight, that was answered. We had the discussion about hiring a PR firm. The Wayfair sales tax would go into the general fund. The collaborative SG is just in the planning phase, and hopefully by the time it would get to reality that all of this will be over. We answered the question about costs. Steve and Joanne did that earlier. We have nothing to do with the MSD situation, and there's a no to number 7. So that was pretty quick. And if you all think the bell ringing is a good idea, we'll pick that up with Dave. I think
I like that idea.
Yep, I do
Let's
too.
do it.
Let's do it.
Do also have a pretty up-to-date list of local clergy
Yes.
that I keep for Webster Rock Hill Ministries. So.
Yes, and Dave, quite frankly, started out with that list of clergy and asking them, and he's had varied responses. Some of the churches don't have anybody there, and they need somebody to physically get up and ring the bell, and so that's a bit of an issue with them. But I think we can try.
It's like Notre Dame, huh?
Like Notre Dame, yeah. So.
We need all the Quasimodos of Webster Groves.
All unite.
And Dave volunteered to go to his church and ring the bell. So if there are any other volunteers in this group, just let Dave know that you're willing to go and ring the bell in a church. That's great.
I'm a non-denominational bell ringer.
Great. Okay, there is no new business, so we'll go on to unfinished business. And I guess I get to choose someone like Bud to do the third. Would you call for the third reading of 9121, please?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the third and final reading of Bill number 9121 and its subsequent adoption.
Second.
Bill 9121, third reading. An ordinance amending Chapter 60, the Traffic Code, Article 6, Section 60.340, Notice of Stop Intersections, and Article 11, Section 60.660, Requirements with respect to displaying state registration plates, and 60.665, using counterfeit license plates prohibited, and repealing Section 60.320, Vehicles to stop at designated school stops and matters related thereto.
Any questions or issues? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Paloma,
Yes.
Councilmember Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Welsh.
Yes. Bill 9121 has passed. Does anyone care to remove anything from the consent agenda? If not, somebody needs a David. Would you be willing to call for the approval?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to call for the approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Councilmember Arnold,
Yes.
Councilmember Bliss,
Yes.
Councilmember Franklin,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Mayor Welsh,
Yes.
Councilmember Paloma.
Yes.
All right, the consent agenda has been approved and we have nothing else to communicate. When is the budget session, Steve? So that we might put that, ensure that's on calendars.
May 12th.
May 12th. So please make sure you have May 12th. I'm sure we'll be doing this through Zoom, as well as the first May council meeting. And I think we will see you all on the town hall meeting on Thursday. And we'll see how that goes and we'll move forward with this. And
Great.
see where life goes. All right. Anything else? If not, then we will call the meeting adjourned. Thank
Thank
you all
you.
for
All right.
participating.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Thank you, Katie. Tell the IT department we said thanks too.
Yeah.
Yes, and
And
Katie and
thanks,
Jen,
Jennifer.
Everybody that showed up.
Katie and Jen, thank you a million times for all you do.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Yep.
Great. All right.
No, I'm gonna end it for all.
So long.
So long. Turn me off.
I'm trying. You don't know.
You can't get me off of here, can
There we
you?
go.
I don't know how to get me off either, so I'm just sitting here waiting.
Yeah.